A sense of calm washed over me, and I felt a connection to the land, as if the spirits were recognizing my sincerity. In that moment, I understood that my survival depended not on fleeing from fear, but on embracing it and showing respect for. The ancient wisdom of the island, with newfound clarity, I retraced my steps back to my camp, the oppressive weight of fear lifting as I emerged from the trees. The night air felt lighter, and the forest, once foreboding, now seemed to hum with life. I knew I had crossed a threshold, one that had opened my eyes to the deeper mysteries of the land. The days that followed were transformative. I immersed myself in studying the flora and fauna of Baffin Island, taking notes on the unique ecosystems I encountered. Each day, I ventured further into the wilderness, seeking to understand the delicate balance of life that thrived there. The shadows no longer felt threatening. Instead, they became a reminder of the unseen forces that shape our world. However, the experience had changed me. I had entered the park as a mere ranger, but I was leaving as an adventurer with a profound respect for the supernatural elements of nature. Baffin Island had taught me that true survival lies in harmony with our surroundings and understanding that transcends the physical world. I had learned to listen, to observe, and to embrace the unknown. As I packed my gear and prepared to leave, I took one last look at the vast expanse of wilderness that had challenged and transformed me. The echoes of the past lingered in the air, but I felt a sense of closure. My experience in Baffin Island National Park had awakened something within me, a deeper connection to nature, and a recognition of the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. What had begun as a routine assignment had evolved into a journey of self-discovery, one that would forever shape my perspective as both a ranger and an adventurer. The supernatural elements I had encountered were not merely figments of fear, but profound reminders of the interconnectedness of life. And as I stepped away from the park, I carried its lessons within me, ready to face whatever adventures awaited. In the wilds beyond. In the heart of Baffin Island National Park, the landscape was not just a backdrop, but a living entity, imbued with ancient stories and an ethereal quality that demanded respect. The towering cliffs and glacial lakes held secrets that had been whispered through generations, and as I delved deeper into the park, I began to understand the profound connection between the land and the people who had inhabited it for centuries. The Inuit culture is rich with legends that bridge the gap between the natural and supernatural. They speak of the Tuktu, a mystical caribou spirit that guides lost travelers, and Kalupalik, a creature that lures children away from the safety of their homes. These stories resonated with me, especially as I began to see the parallels between the legends and my own experiences in the park. With each passing day, I felt more entwined with the island's spirit, and I became determined to honor its history. As I met local Inuit guides, I learned that their connection to the land was not merely spiritual. It was a matter of survival. They had navigated the harsh Arctic landscape for generations, relying on their deep understanding of nature to thrive. One guide, named Inanna, stood out to me. With her striking features and piercing blue eyes, she seemed to embody the essence of the land. Inanna was not just knowledgeable about the wildlife and terrain. She held a wealth of stories that could illuminate the mysteries of Baffin Island. Every rock, every tree has a story, Inanna told me one evening as we sat around a campfire, the flames dancing like spirits in the night. You have to listen carefully. The land speaks if you're willing to hear it. Her words resonated deeply, and I felt a responsibility to not only listen, but to share these stories with others. Through Inanna, I learned about the significance of certain locations within the park, places that were sacred to the Inuit people. The Kiviuk, for instance, was a legendary figure who traveled the land, embodying the spirit of adventure and exploration. His journeys through the mountains and valleys were said to leave traces of wisdom behind. Inspired by these tales, I began to see my role as a ranger not just as a protector of the land, but as a storyteller, a bridge between the past and the present. As I continued my exploration, I encountered other characters who added depth to my understanding of the park. There was Tomas, an older ranger who had dedicated decades to preserving Baffin Island's natural beauty. His weathered face told stories of resilience, and he spoke of the challenges of climate change and its impact on the fragile ecosystems. As a forest ranger and adventurer, I've always been drawn to the wild, untouched landscapes of our planet. My job has taken me to some of the most remote and beautiful locations, but nothing could prepare me for what I encountered during my recent expedition to Baffin Island National Park in Canada. Known for its breathtaking fjords, towering cliffs, and unique wildlife, Baffin Island is a place that captures the imagination of many. However, beneath its stunning beauty lies an air of mystery, and my experience there revealed a realm that defied explanation. Before embarking on this journey, I had heard countless stories about Baffin Island, tales of ancient Inuit legends, mysterious disappearances, and the supernatural. Locals spoke in hushed tones of the spirits that roamed the land, and how the island itself seemed to have a consciousness, observing those who dared to tread upon its surface. Intrigued yet skeptical, I approached my expedition with a mix of excitement and caution, armed with years of experience and a deep respect for nature. As I arrived at the park, the sheer magnitude of the landscape took my breath away. Jagged peaks pierced the sky, their snow-capped tops glistening under the Arctic sun. The air was crisp and invigorating, filled with the scent of pine and the distant sound of rushing water. I set up my base camp near a shimmering glacial lake, surrounded by towering cliffs that stood like sentinels over the land. Little did I know, this serene environment would soon transform into a backdrop for a series of chilling events. My first few days in the park were filled with the usual tasks: checking trails, monitoring wildlife, and interacting with visitors. I enjoyed the solitude that came with my role, finding comfort in the rhythm of nature. However, as night fell, an unsettling ambience began to creep into my surroundings. The sounds of the forest shifted, the familiar rustling of leaves and chirping of birds gave way to an eerie silence that seemed to hang in the air like a heavy fog. One evening, while sitting by the campfire, I noticed something strange in the distance. The shadows cast by the flames danced on the rocks, but there was an unusual flicker in the periphery of my vision. I turned to look, only to see a dark figure standing at the edge of the forest. It was tall and indistinct, blending seamlessly with the shadows of the trees. My heart raced as I squinted into the darkness, but just as quickly as it had appeared, the figure vanished. I dismissed the encounter as a trick of the light, or perhaps a figment of my imagination. Yet, the feeling of being watched lingered. Over the next few nights, I noticed more oddities, strange noises echoing through the woods, whispers carried by the wind, and glimpses of movement in the corner of my eye. It was as if the forest itself was alive, aware of my presence, and perhaps even testing my resolve. On the fourth night, I decided to investigate the source of the strange sounds that had been keeping me awake. Equipped with only my flashlight and a sense of determination, I ventured deeper into the woods. The moon hung high in the sky, illuminating the path ahead, but the shadows seemed to stretch and twist in unnatural ways. An overwhelming sense of dread washed over me, yet I pressed on, driven by curiosity. As I wandered through the dense underbrush, I stumbled upon an ancient burial site marked by weathered stones. The air grew cold, and an inexplicable heaviness settled upon me. I felt an urge to turn back, but an unseen force compelled me to stay. Suddenly, The whispers returned, louder and more insistent, echoing in my mind. They felt familiar yet foreign, a language I could not comprehend, but instinctively understood. A chill ran down my spine as I realized I wasn't alone. The shadows coalesced into vague shapes, swirling around me like a maelstrom. Panic surged within me, and I turned to flee, but the forest seemed to close in around me, blocking my path. I could hear the whispers more clearly now, a cacophony of voices urging me to listen, to understand. In that moment of fear, I recalled the stories I had heard about the spirits of Baffin Island. They were said to be guardians of the land, protectors of the ancient knowledge held within its depths. I knew that many who had come before me had been lost, their souls entwined with the fabric of the forest, but I refused to become another. Tale of dread and despair, drawing upon my training as a ranger, I focused on my breathing, grounding myself in the present. I mean no harm, I called out, my voice steady despite the fear coursing through my veins. I am here to learn, and to respect this land. To my surprise, the whispers began to quiet, the shadows receding as if acknowledging my intentions. This land is changing, and we must adapt, he often said. But it's our duty to ensure that the stories, the wisdom of those who came before, are not lost. Tomas's passion for conservation was infectious, and he became a mentor to me. He taught me about the delicate balance of the ecosystems, emphasizing that every creature, no matter how small, played a vital role. His deep respect for the land mirrored the reverence I had begun to feel, and I found myself eager to learn from him. Yet, it was during my solitary moments in the wilderness that I truly began to connect with the essence of Baffin Island. The stillness of the glacial lakes reflected not just the beauty of the surroundings, but also the introspection that had begun to shape my journey. I often found myself hiking to remote locations, seeking solitude where I could immerse myself in nature. It was in these moments that I felt the presence of the spirits, the echoes of ancient wisdom resonating through the trees. One fateful night, I decided to camp under the stars, far from the established trails. The air was crisp, and the vastness of the sky felt both overwhelming and comforting. As I sat by my fire, I could hear the distant howls of wolves, their calls harmonizing with the rustling leaves. It was then that I realized how interconnected everything was: the land, the creatures, and the stories that bound them together. Suddenly, I felt a presence, a familiar energy that sent a shiver down my spine. I turned, half expecting to see a shadow lurking in the trees, but instead, I found myself staring at a majestic Arctic fox. It stood there, its fur glowing in the moonlight, eyes shimmering with intelligence. I felt as if it were a messenger, a spirit guiding me to embrace my role as a steward of the land. In that moment, I understood the importance of the stories I had been collecting. They were not just tales for entertainment. They were lessons about resilience, respect, and the delicate balance of life. Each character I had met, the Inuit guides, the seasoned rangers, and even the animals, had contributed to my understanding of Baffin Island and its profound beauty. As my time in the park drew to a close, I felt a sense of urgency to share what I had learned. I envisioned leading workshops for visitors, sharing the legends of the Inuit and the stories of the land. I wanted to inspire others to see the park not just as a destination, but as a living, breathing entity deserving of respect and care. The supernatural elements I had encountered were no longer a source of fear. They had become a guiding light, illuminating the path I was destined to follow. The stories of the past were intertwined with the present, creating a tapestry of life that I was honored to be a part of. Baffin Island had transformed me, deepening my understanding of the world and my place within it. Reflecting on my journey, I realized that the essence of Baffin Island was not confined to its breathtaking landscapes. It was found in the stories shared around campfires, the laughter of guides, and the echoes of ancient wisdom carried by the wind. The island had taught me that every adventure holds a deeper meaning, one that connects us to the land and to each other. As I packed my gear and prepared to leave, I felt a sense of gratitude for the experiences that had shaped me. Baffin Island was more than just a park. It was a realm of wonder, a sanctuary of stories, and a reminder of the enduring power of nature. I left with a heart full of stories, ready to honor the land and its spirits, and to continue the legacy of those who had come before me. As my time in Baffin Island National Park unfolded, the initial sense of wonder began to intertwine with an undercurrent of tension. The beauty of the landscape was undeniable, yet beneath the surface lurked a growing sense of unease, a feeling that something was amiss. The whispers of the forest that I had initially found enchanting began to take on a more ominous tone, and strange occurrences heightened my awareness that I was not alone in this vast wilderness. It began subtly. During my daily patrols, I noticed signs of disturbance in the natural order. Tracks that didn't belong to any known wildlife appeared. Near my campsite, large, unfamiliar footprints that seemed to lead into the depths of the forest and vanish without a trace. Anana, the Inuit guide, had warned me about the importance of respecting the spirits of the land. Sometimes they don't take kindly to intrusions, she said, her voice grave. I brushed her warning aside, attributing my anxiety to the isolation of the wilderness, but as days turned into weeks, the disturbances became more pronounced. I would wake in the middle of the night, sensing an unsettling presence. This land is changing, and we must adapt, he often said. But it's our duty to ensure that the stories, the wisdom of those who came before, are not lost. Tomas's passion for conservation was infectious, and he became a mentor to me. He taught me about the delicate balance of the ecosystems, emphasizing that every creature, no matter how small, played a vital role. His deep respect for the land mirrored the reverence I had begun to feel, and I found myself eager to learn from him. Yet, it was during my solitary moments in the wilderness that I truly began to connect with the essence of Baffin Island. The stillness of the glacial lakes reflected not just the beauty of the surroundings, but also the introspection that had begun to shape my journey. I often found myself hiking to remote locations, seeking solitude where I could immerse myself in nature. It was in these moments that I felt the presence of the spirits, the echoes of ancient wisdom resonating through the trees. One fateful night, I decided to camp under the stars, far from the established trails. The air was crisp, and the vastness of the sky felt both overwhelming and comforting. As I sat by my fire, I could hear the distant howls of wolves, their calls harmonizing with the rustling leaves. It was then that I realized how interconnected everything was: the land, the creatures, and the stories that bound them together. Suddenly, I felt a presence, a familiar energy that sent a shiver down my spine. I turned, half expecting to see a shadow lurking in the trees, but instead, I found myself staring at a majestic Arctic fox. It stood there, its fur glowing in the moonlight, eyes shimmering with intelligence. I felt as if it were a messenger, a spirit guiding me to embrace my role as a steward of the land. In that moment, I understood the importance of the stories I had been collecting. They were not just tales for entertainment. They were lessons about resilience, respect, and the delicate balance of life. Each character I had met, the Inuit guides, the seasoned rangers, and even the animals, had contributed to my understanding of Baffin Island and its profound beauty. As my time in the park drew to a close, I felt a sense of urgency to share what I had learned. I envisioned leading workshops for visitors, sharing the legends of the Inuit and the stories of the land. I wanted to inspire others to see the park not just as a destination, but as a living, breathing entity deserving of respect and care. The supernatural elements I had encountered were no longer a source of fear. They had become a guiding light, illuminating the path I was destined to follow. The stories of the past were intertwined with the present, creating a tapestry of life that I was honored to be a part of. Baffin Island had transformed me, deepening my understanding of the world and my place within it. Reflecting on my journey, I realized that the essence of Baffin Island was not confined to its breathtaking landscapes. It was found in the stories shared around campfires, the laughter of guides, and the echoes of ancient wisdom carried by the wind. The island had taught me that every adventure holds a deeper meaning, one that connects us to the land and to each other. As I packed my gear and prepared to leave, I felt a sense of gratitude for the experiences that had shaped me. Baffin Island was more than just a park. It was a realm of wonder, a sanctuary of stories, and a reminder of the enduring power of nature. I left with a heart full of stories, ready to honor the land and its spirits, and to continue the legacy of those who had come before me. As my time in Baffin Island National Park unfolded, the initial sense of wonder began to intertwine with an undercurrent of tension. The beauty of the landscape was undeniable, yet beneath the surface lurked a growing sense of unease, a feeling that something was amiss. The whispers of the forest that I had initially found enchanting began to take on a more ominous tone, and strange occurrences heightened my awareness that I was not alone in this vast wilderness. It began subtly. During my daily patrols, I noticed signs of disturbance in the natural order. Tracks that didn't belong to any known wildlife appeared. Near my campsite, large, unfamiliar footprints that seemed to lead into the depths of the forest and vanish without a trace. Anana, the Inuit guide, had warned me about the importance of respecting the spirits of the land. Sometimes they don't take kindly to intrusions, she said, her voice grave. I brushed her warning aside, attributing my anxiety to the isolation of the wilderness, but as days turned into weeks, the disturbances became more pronounced. I would wake in the middle of the night, sensing an unsettling presence. Shadows danced just beyond the edge of my campsite, and the howling winds carried low, mournful wails that echoed through the trees. I tried to rationalize these experiences, convincing myself they were products of fatigue or imagination. Yet, the feeling of being watched grew stronger, as if the forest itself evaluated my presence, weighing my intentions against the legacy of those who had come before. The conflict escalated on a particularly stormy night. The winds howled like a pack of wolves, and the rain lashed at my tent, creating a cacophony that drowned out all other sounds. I huddled inside, trying to find comfort in the flickering glow of my lantern. Suddenly, I heard a loud crash outside, a sound that felt like a warning. My heart raced as I unzipped the tent flap, peering into the chaos of the storm. The sight that awaited me was both astonishing and terrifying. A massive tree had fallen mere feet from my campsite, its roots exposed like gnarled fingers reaching for the sky. But what struck me more was the feeling of unease that accompanied the event. It was as if the tree had been deliberately uprooted, a message from the spirits warning me to leave. I quickly gathered my belongings, feeling an instinctual urge to flee. But just as I was about to abandon my post, I caught sight of movement in the shadows. A figure emerged, partially obscured by the darkness, a tall, hooded silhouette that seemed to glide rather than walk. My pulse quickened, and a chill ran down my spine. It was unlike anything I had ever seen, exuding an otherworldly presence that made my instincts scream for me to run. The figure raised a hand, and a wave of energy washed over me, paralyzing me in place. In that moment, I understood that I had unwittingly crossed into a realm governed by forces far beyond my comprehension. The figure spoke, its voice echoing through the storm like distant thunder. You tread upon sacred ground, Ranger. The balance has been disrupted, I stammered, searching for words. I mean no harm. I'm here to protect the land. Prove it, it replied, the challenge resonating in the air. Your actions have consequences. The spirits are restless, and you must restore the balance you have disturbed. In that moment, I felt the weight of my responsibility. I was not merely a visitor, but a guardian of this land. Yet, I had been unaware of the depth of my actions and their implications. I had dismissed the warnings, failed to honor the stories and traditions that had been passed down through generations. The realization hit me like a wave, and I knew that I had to confront this conflict head-on, not just for my sake, but for the sake of the spirits and the land I had come to love. As the figure faded back into the shadows, I felt a surge of determination. I had been given a chance to make amends, to right the wrongs I had unknowingly committed. The storm began to wane, the wind softening to a whisper, and I resolved to seek counsel from Anana, hoping she could guide me in restoring the balance. The following day, I hiked to a remote Inuit village where Anana lived. The journey was arduous, the terrain rugged, but I pressed on, driven by the urgency of my mission. When I finally arrived, I found her sitting outside her cabin, surrounded by intricate carvings that told the stories of her ancestors. Anana, I said breathlessly, I need your help. I've disturbed the spirits of the land, and I don't know how to fix it. She looked at me with a piercing gaze, as if she could see straight through to my soul. The spirits are powerful, and they do not forgive easily. You must show respect, humility, and a willingness to understand their ways. Together, we began a series of rituals designed to appease the spirits and restore harmony. Each evening, we would gather at the edge of the forest, offering gifts of tobacco and chanting ancient prayers. Anana taught me the significance of each gesture, explaining how the spirits of the land thrived on respect and gratitude. You must listen to the land, she said. Only then can you understand what it needs. As we performed the rituals, I felt a shift in the atmosphere around us. The whispers in the wind transformed from ominous warnings to gentle guidance, as if the spirits were beginning to acknowledge our efforts. Yet, the shadows lingered, a reminder that the conflict was far from resolved. One evening, as we sat by the fire, Anana shared stories of past rangers who had faced similar challenges. They learned the hard way that the spirits are not to be trifled with, she cautioned. Many lost their way, becoming trapped in the forest, their spirits forever entwined with the land. Her words hung heavy in the air, and I realized that my journey was not just about survival. It was about understanding my place within the larger narrative of life and nature. Each story she shared reinforced the idea that we are all interconnected, and that the choices we make ripple through the fabric of existence. Despite our efforts, the restlessness of the spirits persisted. One night, as I lay in my tent, I was jolted awake by a deafening roar that shook the ground beneath me. I scrambled outside, heart racing, only to be met by an eerie sight. The forest was alive with chaos. Branches twisted and snapped as if caught in a violent storm. A powerful wind whipped through the trees, carrying with it the anguished cries of the spirits. Panic surged within me as I realized that our efforts had not been enough. The balance had not yet been restored, and time was running out. I had to confront the source of this unrest, and I knew that the only way to do so was to return to the ancient burial site I had stumbled upon earlier. With Anana by my side, we trekked back to the site, the weight of our mission heavy on our shoulders. As we approached, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me, the whispers growing louder. They filled my mind with images of those who had come before me, there, spirits still trapped, unable to find peace, standing at the burial site. I took a deep breath, and addressed the spirits directly. I acknowledge your presence and the pain that has lingered. I am here to learn and to honor your legacy. Please guide me in restoring the balance. As I spoke, the energy in the air shifted. The shadows coalesced and the hooded figure reappeared, its presence stronger than before. You seek to mend what has been broken, it said, its voice echoing through the night. But true restoration requires sacrifice. What are you willing to give? I hesitated, knowing that the answer would test my resolve. The memories of my journey flashed before my eyes, the beauty of the land, the lessons learned, and the connections forged. I understood that to restore the balance, I needed to willingly offer something of myself, a piece of my spirit intertwined with the legacy of the land. With conviction, I spoke. I offer my commitment to protect this land and honor its spirits. I will share your stories, ensuring that they are never forgotten. I give my heart to the wilderness, and I vow to be a steward of this land. As the words left my lips, the winds began to calm, and the shadows receded. The figure nodded, a sense of approval washing over me. Your sacrifice is accepted. The balance shall be restored. In that moment, I felt a surge of energy coursing. Through me, a connection to the spirits of the land that transcended the physical realm. The whispers transformed into a harmonious chorus, a celebration of unity between the living and the spirits. As dawn broke over Baffin Island, the landscape appeared more vibrant, alive with a renewed sense of purpose. I had faced the conflict, embraced the challenges, and emerged transformed. The spirits had accepted my offering, and I felt a profound responsibility to honor the legacy of those who had come before me. From that day forward, I became an ambassador for Baffin Island, sharing the stories and wisdom of the land with all who would listen. The conflict had deepened my understanding of the delicate balance that exists within nature and the importance of respecting the spirits that guide us. My journey was far from over, but I now carried the lessons of the past, ready to forge a path that honored both the land and its timeless stories. As my journey in Baffin Island National Park unfolded, it became clear that my experiences were not simply a solitary adventure. They were interwoven with deeper narratives and complex relationships that revealed the multifaceted nature of the land and its inhabitants. Each subplot added depth to my primary quest, enriching my understanding of the challenges faced by the environment, the Inuit culture, and my own evolving identity as a steward of nature. The environmental crisis affecting Baffin Island stood out as a pressing concern. Tomas, the seasoned ranger I had met earlier, dedicated his life to conservation efforts and often spoke of the rapid changes taking place in the Arctic due to climate change. Glaciers were melting at an alarming rate, and the wildlife that depended on these ecosystems for survival was in jeopardy. As I patrolled the park, I witnessed firsthand the effects of this crisis: diminished wildlife populations, shifting migration patterns, and the encroachment of invasive species. Despite Tomas's tireless efforts to raise awareness and foster community involvement, he faced significant challenges. Many in the local community felt a sense of helplessness, believing that their voices were drowned out by larger political and economic forces. This subplot resonated with me deeply, making me realize that my role as a ranger extended beyond protecting the land. It involved advocating for the environment and empowering others to take action. Inspired by Tomas's dedication, I began to engage with visitors, sharing not only the beauty of the park, but also the urgent need for conservation. The more I learned about the complexities of the ecosystem, the more determined I became to be a part of the solution. Another intricate layer of my experience was the subplot of cultural preservation among the Inuit community. Anano, the guide, who had become a mentor, shared the importance of maintaining their traditions and stories. The Inuit faced the dual threat of climate change and globalization, which were eroding their cultural heritage. She spoke passionately about the need to pass down knowledge, language, and customs to future generations. During our time together, Anana introduced me to her grandmother, an elder who held a wealth of stories about the land and its spirits. Sitting in their modest home, I listened intently as she recounted tales of the Kolupalik and the Tuktu, weaving intricate narratives that connected the past to the present. These stories were not just entertainment. They were essential for the survival of their culture, serving as a guide for navigating the challenges of the modern world. Witnessing this cultural richness made me acutely aware of my own privilege and the responsibility that came with it. I felt compelled to help amplify their voices and stories, ensuring that the wisdom of the Inuit was not lost in the tide of progress. Together, Anana and I organized storytelling events in the village, inviting people from all walks of life to gather and share their experiences. These evenings became a cherished tradition, fostering a sense of community and connection that transcended cultural barriers. The conflict I faced in the park also catalyzed my personal transformation, a subplot intricately linked to my role as a ranger. Initially, I approached my job with a sense of duty, focused on the mechanics of conservation and the technical aspects of my role. However, as I delved deeper into the stories of the land and its people, I found myself questioning my motivations and desires. The supernatural experiences I encountered had shaken my worldview, forcing me to confront my fears and insecurities. The hooded figure that had challenged me on that stormy night represented the internal struggle I faced, a reminder that I needed to reconcile my ambitions with a genuine commitment to the land. This subplot became a journey of self-discovery, compelling me to reflect on my values and the impact I wanted to make in the world. In moments of solitude, I began to journal my thoughts and feelings, documenting not only my observations of the land, but also my internal battles. Through writing, I found clarity and purpose, embracing the idea that my journey was not just about survival, but about connection both to the land and to others. Interpersonal relationships emerged as key drivers of conflict and resolution within this rich tapestry of subplots. My interactions with Anana, Tomas, and the Inuit community revealed the complexities of collaboration and understanding. Initially, I felt like an outsider, grappling with my place among those who had deep-rooted connections to the land. However, as I engaged more with the community, I began to forge genuine relationships based on mutual respect and shared goals. There were moments of tension, particularly when it came to differing perspectives on conservation strategies. Some elders believed in a more traditional approach, emphasizing the need to live in harmony with the land without external interference. Others, like Tomas, argued for a more proactive stance, advocating for scientific interventions to combat the rapidly changing environment. These discussions often sparked heated debates, forcing me to navigate the fine line between respecting cultural beliefs and addressing pressing ecological challenges. Through these interactions, I learned the value of dialogue and compromise. I began to facilitate conversations between the elders and rangers, creating a space where both perspectives could be heard. This process was not easy. It required patience, empathy, and the willingness to embrace discomfort. Yet, it became clear that finding common ground was essential for fostering a united front in the face of adversity. As these subplots intertwined, a central theme emerged: the power of unity in overcoming challenges. The environmental crisis, cultural preservation, personal transformation, and interpersonal relationships all converged to highlight the importance of collaboration and collective action. I witnessed firsthand how the community came together to address the issues facing Baffin Island, pooling their knowledge, resources, and determination One particular event crystallized this theme for me: a community gathering to plant native trees along the riverbanks. The day was filled with laughter, storytelling, and shared labor as people of all ages worked side by side, planting saplings that would one day thrive in the rich soil. This simple act symbolized more than just environmental restoration. It represented a commitment to the future where the land, its stories, and its people could flourish together. In the weeks that followed, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The subplots I had navigated were no longer isolated threads. They formed a cohesive narrative that illuminated the complexities of life in Baffin Island. My journey had transformed me from a solitary ranger into a community member, a storyteller, and an advocate for both the land and its people. As I prepared to leave Baffin Island, I carried with me not only the lessons learned, but also the relationships forged and the stories shared. The complexities of the land and its inhabitants had deepened my appreciation for the interconnectedness of all life. I was ready to embrace my role as a steward of nature, committed to honoring the legacy of Baffin Island and ensuring that its beauty and wisdom would endure for generations to come. As my time in Baffin Island National Park progressed, the subtle undercurrents of tension I had sensed began to crystallize into a pivotal moment that would forever change my understanding of the land and my role within it. The whispers of the forest had evolved from eerie warnings to urgent pleas, and it became increasingly clear that the balance of this fragile ecosystem was at a breaking point. The turning point arrived on a day that was both ordinary and extraordinary, an intersection of fate and responsibility that would challenge everything I had come to believe. It began with a routine patrol along one of the park's trails. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the landscape, and I felt a sense of peace enveloping me as I walked. The rhythmic sounds of nature, the rustling leaves, the distant call of a bird provided a soothing backdrop to my thoughts. I reflected on the connections I had formed with the Inuit community and my growing commitment to the land. Yet, beneath this tranquility lay a persistent unease, an awareness that something was looming just beyond the horizon. As I rounded a bend in the trail, I was met with a sight that stopped me in my tracks. A group of tourists stood gathered at the edge of a clearing, their expressions a mix of awe and confusion. I approached cautiously, my heart racing as I tried to gauge the situation. In the center of the clearing lay a massive polar bear, its white fur stark against the dark earth, seemingly disoriented and lethargic. It was a rare sight, and yet something felt profoundly wrong. The bear was far from its usual territory, and its behavior suggested that it was in distress. The tourists were taking photos, their excitement overshadowing the gravity of the situation. I quickly intervened, urging them to step back and give the animal space. "This is not just a photo opportunity," I said, my voice steady but laced with urgency. "This bear is not well. We need to call for help." As I dialed the park ranger headquarters, I felt a deep sense of responsibility wash over me. This bear was not just a majestic creature. It was a symbol of the fragile ecosystem that was unraveling before my eyes. The animals were being pushed to their limits, forced into unfamiliar territories due to climate change and habitat loss. I realized that this moment was a manifestation of the very crisis I had been trying to comprehend, a tangible representation of the challenges facing Baffin Island. While waiting for assistance, I observed the bear closely. Its eyes were clouded, and it moved sluggishly, clearly struggling to stand. The sight was heartbreaking, and I felt an overwhelming urge to do anything to help. I recalled the stories Anana had shared about the sacred bond between the Inuit and the land, the deep respect for all living beings. In that instant, I understood that I needed to embody that respect, to act as a guardian for this creature that could not speak for itself. When the wildlife team arrived, they quickly assessed the situation. They established a perimeter to keep the tourists at bay while they worked to sedate the bear for transport to the rehabilitation center. It was a delicate operation, and I felt a mix of anxiety and hope as I watched. The bear's life hung in the balance, but I could see the dedication in the eyes of the wildlife specialists. They treated the animal with the utmost care, their movements precise and respectful. As the bear was loaded onto a stretcher, I felt a surge of emotion. This was not just about saving one polar bear. It was about acknowledging the interconnectedness of all life on the island. The turning point had arrived, forcing me to confront the reality of what was at stake. I understood that the struggles of the bear mirrored the struggles of the Inuit people and the land itself. We were all part of the same intricate web of existence, deeply intertwined and dependent on one another. In the days that followed, the incident reverberated throughout the park and the surrounding communities. News of the polar bear's rescue spread quickly, sparking conversations about conservation and the urgent need for collective action. I found myself at the forefront of these discussions, engaging with visitors and locals alike about the challenges facing Baffin Island. The bear had become a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, hope and action were possible, driven by the momentum of this turning point. I collaborated with Tomas and Anana to organize a series of community forums focused on environmental education and advocacy. We invited local leaders, scientists, and community members to share their insights and experiences, creating a platform for dialogue that emphasized the importance of unity in addressing the challenges ahead. The forums became a space for stories of the land, the animals, and the people who called Baffin Island home. During one of these gatherings, Anana shared her grandmother's tales of the Tuktu and the Kalupalik, weaving lessons of respect and stewardship into the fabric of our discussions. Her words resonated with attendees, reminding us all that the land was not just a resource, but a living entity, deserving of care and reverence. As we listened and learned from one another, I felt a sense of empowerment growing within the community. We were no longer passive observers. We were active participants in shaping the future of Baffin Island. The turning point also prompted a deeper reflection on my own journey. I realized that my role as a ranger extended beyond the confines of duty. It was a calling to be a voice for the voiceless, to advocate for the land and its inhabitants. The experiences I had endured, the supernatural encounters, the cultural exchanges, and the emotional roller coaster of the polar bear rescue had transformed me from a mere observer into a passionate advocate for conservation. One evening, as I sat by the fire with Tomas and Anana, I shared my thoughts. The bear's plight opened my eyes to the urgency of our mission. I said, "We can't wait for change to happen. We have to be the change. Our voices, our actions, they matter." Tomas nodded, his expression thoughtful. "You've learned. Well, my friend, it's not just about protecting the land. It's about inspiring others to take action, to recognize their role in this complex web of life." The conversations we had around the fire were filled with hope and determination. We discussed our plans for future initiatives, educational programs for local schools, partnerships with environmental organizations, and outreach efforts to raise awareness about the challenges facing Baffin Island. The turning point had ignited a spark within us, a shared commitment to ensure that the stories of the land and its creatures would continue to be told. As the seasons changed, so did our efforts. We organized tree planting events, clean-up initiatives, and workshops focused on sustainable practices. The community rallied together, united by a shared purpose. I witnessed firsthand the transformative power of collective action. People who had once felt powerless began to find their voice, their passion ignited by the realization that they were part of something greater. One day, as I stood on a hill overlooking the vast expanse of Baffin Island, I felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over me. The turning point had not only reshaped my understanding of the land and its people, but had also forged deep connections within the community. I was no longer just a ranger. I was a member of a larger family dedicated to protecting the beauty and wisdom of Baffin Island. The polar bear's rescue had been a catalyst for change, a reminder that every life mattered and that we were all interconnected. As I looked out over the breathtaking landscape, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I was ready to continue my journey as a steward of nature, committed to honoring the legacy of Baffin Island and ensuring that its beauty and wisdom would endure for generations to come. Anana and I collaborated with local leaders to draft a proposal for a conservation initiative that incorporated traditional knowledge and modern science. Yet, as progress was made, challenges remained. The looming threat of climate change persisted, and the community faced ongoing struggles with resource management and external pressures. The effects of rising temperatures and shifting ecosystems were becoming increasingly evident, with unpredictable weather patterns and declining fish stocks affecting traditional hunting and fishing practices. In response, the community organized a series of workshops led by scientists and elders, where they could share knowledge and develop strategies for resilience. I participated in these gatherings, facilitating discussions that bridged the gap between traditional ecological knowledge and contemporary scientific understanding. The collaborative spirit fostered a sense of empowerment, reminding us that we were not powerless in the face of adversity. Through these workshops, I learned firsthand about the importance of adaptability and innovation. The Inuit community had thrived in this harsh environment for generations, drawing on their deep understanding of the land. They were determined to apply that knowledge to confront the challenges of the present and future. As the seasons changed, so did our initiatives. We organized community events that celebrated the unique culture and heritage of the Inuit, showcasing traditional art, music, and storytelling. These events not only fostered pride in their identity, but also drew attention from visitors who sought to understand and appreciate the rich history of Baffin Island. The growing awareness led to increased support for conservation efforts. Grants and funding opportunities began to surface, allowing the community to implement practical solutions for habitat restoration and wildlife protection. Tomas and I worked closely with community members to develop a comprehensive conservation plan that honored the land and incorporated the voices of those who called it home. In the end, the consequences of the polar bear's rescue were profound. It sparked a movement that transcended individual actions, uniting the community in a shared purpose. The bear had become a symbol of resilience, a reminder of the delicate balance that existed between humanity and nature. As I reflected on the journey, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the lessons learned and the connections forged. The reactions to the bear's plight illuminated the complexities of environmental stewardship, cultural preservation, and community empowerment. Together, we had navigated the challenges and embraced the opportunities, transforming adversity into action. The future of Baffin Island was uncertain, but with a united community committed to protecting their land and heritage, there was hope. For a brighter tomorrow, the aftermath of the polar bear's rescue marked a crucial period of overcoming challenges and fostering growth within the community and myself. The events that unfolded catalyzed not only a collective movement toward conservation, but also prompted deep personal reflections that transformed my understanding of my role as a steward of the land. As I navigated through this process, I discovered the power of resilience, the importance of community, and the transformative nature of collective action. In the weeks following the bear's rescue, our community was abuzz with activities aimed at fostering environmental awareness and cultural pride. I found myself increasingly immersed in these initiatives, working alongside Tomas and Anana to create programs that emphasize the interconnectedness of our environment and the Inuit culture. One of our first projects was a series of workshops designed to teach sustainable practices that could be integrated into daily life. We invited experts in conservation and local elders to share their knowledge, ensuring that both traditional ecological wisdom and modern techniques were respected and utilized. The workshops quickly became a cornerstone of our community efforts. I watched as participants, ranging from children to elders, engaged in discussions that bridged generations. The elders shared stories of their ancestors' practices, emphasizing the importance of harmony with nature. They spoke of the animals, plants, and landscapes that were integral to their way of life, illustrating that the survival of their culture was inherently tied to the health of the land. Meanwhile, scientists provided insights into current environmental challenges, highlighting the urgent need for action against climate change. One particular workshop focused on traditional hunting practices and sustainable fishing techniques. Anana's father, a respected elder, led the session, sharing not only practical skills, but also the spiritual dimensions of these practices. He emphasized that every hunt was a sacred act, a dialogue between humans and nature. As he spoke, I felt a profound sense of connection to the land and its rhythms, reinforcing the idea that our survival depended on respect and stewardship. Participants were encouraged to ask questions and share their experiences, creating an atmosphere of mutual learning that deepened our collective understanding. As I facilitated these workshops, I also confronted my own insecurities. Initially, I felt unworthy of the responsibility I had taken on, questioning whether I could truly make a difference. The weight of the environmental crisis loomed large, and I often felt overwhelmed by the enormity of the challenges we faced. However, as I witnessed the passion and dedication of those around me, I began to realize that overcoming these obstacles was not solely my burden to bear. It was a shared journey. One evening, after a particularly inspiring workshop, I sat by the fire with Tomas and Anana, reflecting on the progress we had made. I never imagined we would come this far, I admitted, feeling both exhilarated and humbled. But sometimes I still worry we're not doing enough. Tomas smiled knowingly. It's natural to feel that way, but remember, every small action contributes to a larger movement. Change takes time, and we are planting seeds for the future. His words resonated deeply with me. I understood that growth was not always linear. It involved setbacks, reflections, and perseverance. Each workshop, each community event, was a step toward building a more resilient and informed community. I realized that my role wasn't just about imparting knowledge. It was about fostering a sense of agency among community members, encouraging them to take ownership of their environment. As the workshops gained momentum, we decided to organize a community cleanup event at one of the local beaches. The goal was to raise awareness about plastic pollution and its impact on marine life, as well as to reinforce our commitment to preserving the natural beauty of Baffin Island. We promoted the event through social media, local radio, and community bulletin boards inviting everyone to participate. On the day of the cleanup, I was struck by the turnout. Families, children, and elders arrived armed with gloves, bags, and a shared determination to protect their land. The sense of unity in the air was palpable as we spread out along the shoreline, working side by side to collect debris. Laughter and conversations filled the space, transforming what could have been a mundane task into a celebration of community spirit. As we filled bag after bag with plastic waste, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This was not just a cleanup. It was a declaration of our commitment to the land and to each other. The act of coming together to confront an environmental issue reinforced our bond, reminding us that we were all in this together. I watched as children eagerly picked up pieces of trash, their faces lit up with pride as they contributed to the greater good. In the midst of this collective effort, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me here, the challenges. I had faced the feelings of isolation. The internal doubts seemed to fade into the background. I was no longer just a ranger. I was part of a vibrant community, actively working to create positive change. The growth I experienced was not only personal, but also communal, as we learned to lean on one another for support and encouragement. The cleanup event culminated in a small gathering where we shared stories and celebrated our accomplishments. Anana spoke about the importance of caring for the land, linking our actions to the wisdom of our ancestors. "We are the stewards of this land," she declared. "What we do today shapes the future for our children and their children." Her words resonated deeply with everyone present. It was a powerful reminder that our efforts were not just for ourselves, but for generations to come. As we shared food and laughter, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the connections we had forged and the collective growth we had achieved. In the weeks that followed, I continued to witness the impact of our efforts. The community began to embrace sustainable practices in their daily lives, from reducing plastic use to supporting local businesses that prioritized eco-friendly products. Schools integrated environmental education into their curricula, empowering the next generation to understand and care for their environment. I also noticed a shift in my own mindset. The doubts that had once plagued me began to recede as I embraced my role within this community. I learned to celebrate the small victories and recognize that progress was often a series of incremental steps. The journey was far from over, but I felt equipped to face the challenges ahead, knowing that I was not alone. The culmination of our efforts came in the form of a community festival, celebrating the beauty and resilience of Baffin Island. We invited local artists, musicians, and storytellers to showcase their talents, turning the event into a vibrant celebration of culture and environmental stewardship. As I stood among my friends and neighbors, I marveled at the sense of pride and unity that filled the air. The festival was a reminder of how far we had come together. It was a testament to the power of overcoming obstacles and nurturing growth, both individually and collectively. We had transformed our fears into action, our doubts into determination, and our challenges into opportunities for learning and connection. As the sun set over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the festivities, I felt a profound sense of belonging. I had found my place within this community, not just as a ranger, but as an advocate for the land, a connector of stories, and a believer in the power of resilience. In that moment, I understood that overcoming challenges was not merely about addressing immediate issues. It was about fostering a culture of awareness, respect, and stewardship. The growth we had experienced was a testament to our shared commitment to protecting the land, its stories, and its people. And as we celebrated our achievements, I knew that our journey was just beginning, filled with endless possibilities for a brighter future. As the community's efforts to protect and preserve Baffin Island intensified, an undercurrent of anticipation rippled through the air. We were preparing for the culmination of our work, a significant event that would serve as both a celebration of our progress and a rallying cry for future initiatives. This moment was not merely symbolic. It was the climax of a journey marked by resilience, growth, and a shared commitment to our environment. In the weeks leading up to the event, the atmosphere was charged with excitement and purpose. Tomas, Anana, and I worked tirelessly to coordinate the festival, which we decided to call the Gathering of the Land. This festival would showcase the unique culture of the Inuit community while emphasizing the importance of environmental stewardship. It was to be a day filled with workshops, storytelling, traditional music, and art, all aimed at fostering a deeper connection between the people and the land. As we met to finalize the details, I felt a mixture of exhilaration and anxiety. We had set ambitious goals for the festival, hoping to attract not only locals, but also visitors from surrounding areas. Our aim was to create a platform for dialogue about conservation, climate change, and cultural preservation. However, the weight of expectations rested heavily on my shoulders. I worried about whether we could truly make an impact, whether our message would resonate with those who attended. Tomas noticed my unease and offered reassuring words. Remember, this isn't just about numbers. It's about the stories we share and the connections we foster. Each person who leaves with a renewed sense of purpose is a victory in itself. His perspective helped ground me, reminding me that our efforts were not solely about the scale of the event, but rather the heartfelt connections we could create. Anana took charge of organizing the cultural components of the festival, reaching out to local artists and musicians. She was passionate about showcasing the rich traditions of the Inuit people, ensuring that their voices were heard and their stories shared. I marveled at her ability to inspire others, her enthusiasm infectious as she painted a vision of a vibrant celebration that honored our heritage, while Anana focused on the cultural aspects. I took on the logistics. I coordinated with vendors, arranged for food and supplies, and organized workshops that would educate attendees about sustainable practices. The workshops would cover topics such as traditional hunting methods, the importance of biodiversity, and practical steps individuals could take to reduce their ecological footprint. I was excited to see how these sessions would empower attendees, giving them tools to make a difference in their own lives. As the festival date approached, we faced several challenges. Weather forecasts predicted rain, threatening to dampen our outdoor festivities. I felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach as I considered the implications. Would people still come if the weather turned sour? Would the festival lose its vibrancy if we had to move everything indoors? It was a reminder that, despite our best efforts, we were still at the mercy of nature. On the morning of the festival, I awoke to the sound of rain tapping against my window. My heart sank as I glanced at the gray sky. Nevertheless, I resolved to remain optimistic. We had prepared for this possibility, arranging tents and indoor spaces to accommodate events regardless of the weather. I reminded myself that the spirit of the festival was rooted in community and resilience, not in the perfect conditions. As I arrived at the festival grounds, I was greeted by a flurry of activity. Volunteers were setting up tents, arranging tables for food vendors, and preparing spaces for workshops. Despite the rain, there was a palpable sense of excitement in the air. I saw families arriving, children laughing, and elders exchanging stories, all contributing to a vibrant atmosphere that could not be dampened by the weather. Anana's efforts had paid off, as local artists displayed their work proudly, showcasing traditional crafts, artwork, and photography that depicted the beauty of Baffin Island. I was moved by the creativity and passion on display, a testament to the resilience and spirit of our community. The sight reminded me of the importance of preserving our culture and sharing it with the world. As the festival officially kicked off, I took a deep breath, letting the energy of the crowd wash over me. I was honored to welcome everyone, acknowledging their presence and emphasizing the significance of the day. Today is not just a celebration. It's a commitment to our land, our culture, and our future, I said, my voice steady despite the nervous flutter in my chest. The applause that followed filled me with a sense of purpose, reinforcing my belief in the importance of our mission. The workshops began, and I felt a surge of pride as I watched community members engage with the material, asking questions and sharing their own experiences. The conversations flowed effortlessly, bridging generations and fostering a sense of unity. Each individual who participated was not just learning, they were becoming part of a larger narrative, one that celebrated the beauty of Baffin Island and the importance of protecting it. As the day progressed, I found myself moving between different areas of the festival, soaking in the atmosphere and connecting with attendees. I chatted with families about their hopes for the future, listened to elders share stories of their ancestors, and marveled at the creativity of local artisans. Each interaction reinforced the idea that we were all part of something much larger than ourselves, a collective commitment to the land and each other. Despite the rain, the festival was a resounding success. People mingled in the tents, sharing food and laughter, forging connections that would last beyond the event. The sense of community was palpable, a reminder that together we could overcome any obstacle. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the festival, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment wash over me. We had created a space for dialogue, learning, and celebration, and I knew that the impact of this day would resonate long after the last guest had departed. As the festivities wound down, I gathered with Tomas and Anana, reflecting on the day's events. "We did it," I said, my heart swelling with gratitude. Despite the rain, people showed up and engaged. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Tomas nodded, his eyes bright with enthusiasm. "Absolutely. Today was a catalyst. We've planted seeds of awareness, and now it's up to us to nurture them." Anana smiled, her spirit unyielding. "We've honored our culture and our land. This is a testament to the strength of our community. We will continue to grow and adapt." As I stood there, surrounded by my friends and community, I felt a profound sense of belonging. The festival had marked a pivotal moment in our journey, a preparation for the challenges that lay ahead. With renewed determination, I understood that our work was far from over. This event was not just a climax. It was a launching point for future initiatives. Together, we would continue to champion the cause of conservation, cultural preservation, and community empowerment. The rain may have dampened the ground, but it had not diminished our spirits. We were ready to face whatever challenges came our way, united in our commitment to protect the beauty and wisdom of Baffin Island for generations to come. The day of the Gathering of the Land Festival had arrived, and an electric atmosphere filled the air as the community buzzed with anticipation. Despite the earlier rain, the clouds had parted, revealing a brilliant blue sky that seemed to bless our efforts. It was a day that would not only highlight our achievements, but also serve as a pivotal moment in our ongoing journey toward environmental stewardship and cultural preservation. As I arrived at the festival grounds, I was greeted by the vibrant colors of tents, banners fluttering in the breeze, and the rich aroma of traditional foods being prepared by local vendors. Families set up picnic areas. Children laughed and played, and the sounds of drums and melodies wafted through the air. It was a celebration of life and culture, a testament to the resilience of our community. My heart swelled with pride as I took in the scene, knowing that each detail we had planned was coming to fruition. Tomas and Anana were busy overseeing the final touches. Anana was adjusting the display of traditional Inuit crafts, ensuring that every piece told a story of heritage and connection to the land. Tomas was coordinating with the musicians, making sure the schedule flowed smoothly. I joined them, feeling a surge of energy as I realized how far we had come together. "Are you ready for this?" I asked, a mix of excitement and nerves bubbling. Within me, Tomas chuckled. "Ready or not, here we go." Remember, it's about the connections we make today. As the festival kicked off, I took to the stage, looking out at the crowd that had gathered. The sea of faces, young and old, familiar and new, filled me with hope. Gripping the microphone, I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. "Welcome, everyone. Today is not just a festival. It's a celebration of our land, our culture, and our Future. The crowd erupted in applause, and I felt the energy shift. This was more than just a gathering. It was a movement. The first few hours were a whirlwind of activities. Workshops on sustainable practices flourished with participation. I watched as community members engaged in discussions about traditional hunting methods and the importance of protecting wildlife. The stories shared resonated deeply, linking the present to the past and creating a shared vision for the future. Anana took the stage next, her presence commanding attention. She spoke passionately about the interconnectedness of the Inuit culture and the land, weaving in tales of her ancestors and the sacred relationship they maintained with nature. "We are the guardians of this land," she declared, her voice steady. "It is our responsibility to ensure that its beauty and wisdom endure for generations to come." The crowd listened intently, and I could see the spark of inspiration igniting within them. This was the moment we had worked so hard to create, a moment where everyone felt empowered to take action, to become part of the story. As the day progressed, we transitioned to the cultural performances. Local musicians took to the stage, their melodies echoing through the festival grounds. Anana's brother played the drum, setting a rhythm that resonated with the heartbeat of the land. Dancers adorned in traditional attire moved gracefully, their movements telling stories of nature, resilience, and unity. The audience clapped and cheered, fully immersed in the celebration of our heritage. Then came the unexpected. Just as the performances reached a crescendo, a commotion erupted at the edge of the festival grounds. I turned to see a group of visitors pointing toward the nearby forest. My heart raced as I observed a polar bear emerging from the tree line, its massive form both majestic and alarming. It was the same bear we had rescued weeks earlier, now wandering close to where families had gathered. Panic rippled through the crowd, and I felt a rush of adrenaline. The bear, seemingly disoriented but unharmed, was drawn by the sounds of celebration. It was a breathtaking yet precarious situation. I knew that we had to act quickly to ensure the safety of both the bear and the festival goers. Tomas sprang into action, instructing volunteers to create a barrier between the bear and the crowd. I grabbed the microphone, my voice steady despite the rising tension. "Everyone, please remain calm and move back slowly. We're going to ensure the bear can safely return to the forest." As people began to retreat, I felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on me. The bear represented everything we had been fighting for: the fragility of the environment and the urgent need for conservation. I remembered the stories Anana had shared about the sacred bond between the Inuit and the wildlife, and I felt a deep connection to this creature that had become an emblem of our struggle. With the help of the wildlife team, we managed to guide the bear away from the festival. They used non-invasive techniques to encourage it to return to the safety of the forest. I watched, my heart racing as the bear hesitated, its eyes scanning the area. In that moment, I felt a profound empathy for the creature. It was a reminder of the delicate balance we were all trying to maintain. As the bear finally turned and retreated into the trees, a wave of relief washed over the crowd. The tension dissipated, and the energy of the festival shifted back to celebration. I could see the awe and wonder in the eyes of those who had witnessed the encounter. This was not merely a moment of fear. It was a reminder of the wild beauty that surrounded us and the urgent need to protect it. When the crowd settled, I took a moment to reflect on what had just transpired. The incident had turned our festival into a living testament to the challenges we faced as a community and as stewards of the land. It reinforced the message we had been sharing all day, that our connection to nature was not just a responsibility, but a privilege. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the festival, I gathered everyone together once more. Today, We not only celebrated our culture, but also faced a reminder of why we are here. The polar bear's visit was a symbol of the wild spirit of Baffin Island, and it is our duty to protect it. The crowd erupted in applause, a collective acknowledgement of our shared commitment. The festival concluded with a powerful communal circle, where we joined hands and shared our hopes for the future. Each person spoke, expressing their aspirations for the land, the wildlife, and our community. I felt a deep sense of unity, a realization that we were all part of something greater than ourselves. As the last notes of music faded into the twilight, I stood in the center of that circle, surrounded by friends, family, and neighbors. The bear's unexpected appearance had turned our celebration into a powerful reminder of the work ahead. Together, we had faced a moment of uncertainty, but we emerged stronger, more connected, and more determined than ever. The climax of the gathering of the land was not just about the festival itself. It was a call to action. The encounter with the polar bear solidified our purpose and ignited a fire within the community. We were united in our resolve to protect our land and its creatures, ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. In that moment, I knew that our journey was far from over. It was only just beginning, fueled by the passion and commitment of a community ready to rise together for the future of Baffin Island. The journey through the challenges and triumphs faced in Baffin Island has been transformative for both the community and myself. The polar bear's rescue served as a catalyst, uniting us in our shared commitment to protect the land and its wildlife. Through workshops, festivals, and community engagement, we fostered a deep understanding of the intricate relationship between culture and the environment. Each event became a stepping stone toward greater awareness and action, empowering individuals to take ownership of their roles as stewards of the land. The unexpected encounter with the polar bear during the festival crystallized our mission, reminding us of the urgency of our efforts. It illustrated the delicate balance we must maintain between human existence and the natural world. As we stood together, united in purpose, it became clear that our work was not just about preserving the past. It was about ensuring a sustainable future for generations to come. Our journey has shown that change is possible when communities come together, share their stories, and inspire one another. The voices of the Inuit people, combined with the passion of allies, created a powerful movement that resonates far beyond Baffin Island. As we look ahead, we carry forth the lessons learned, embracing the responsibility to advocate for our environment and uphold our cultural heritage. This is a call to continue this journey, to remain vigilant in our efforts, and to inspire others to join us. Together, we can create a future where nature and culture flourish hand in hand, ensuring that the beauty of Baffin Island endures for all time. In the years that followed, the efforts initiated during the gathering of the land blossomed into a robust movement for environmental conservation and cultural preservation. The community continued to hold annual festivals, each growing in participation and impact. Local schools integrated environmental education into their curricula, empowering the next generation to carry the torch. The partnership between the Inuit community and environmental organizations strengthened, leading to successful initiatives that protected wildlife and restored habitats. As a steward of Baffin Island, I found purpose in these ongoing efforts, knowing that our collective journey was vital for the land and its people. Join us in our commitment to protect the environment and preserve cultural heritage. Engage with your community by participating in local conservation efforts, attending educational workshops, and advocating for sustainable practices.